Greetings and welcome to the PrizePicks Prop Show. That's right, it's Michael Govier. I feel so much better than I did a week ago. I was under the weather, so I'm just stoked to be here. I feel like my natural self once again. Me and Stewart Durst live for the PrizePicks Show. We do it every Friday, and we're going to do it again right now, of course. If you want to make some money and you want to make the most with your buck, go to PrizePicks and use that code FTN, and we'll match you up to 100 bones. That's right, $100 will be matched at PrizePicks with the promo code FTN. Stewart, last week I got kind of boned by the only game I could think of on the schedule during the day that had a major weather delay. Those weather delays, Texas A&M and Sam Houston last week, it was a huge, long, drawn-out delay. It was a real bummer, and it was the only game, really, that I saw on the schedule that I got kind of screwed on.
Yeah, no, unfortunate. I mean, those weather delays, you just feel terrible, right? You kind of know something's up. You're sitting there, you're checking ESPN, it's not starting. Not a fun way to lose a bet. Luckily, got a brand new slate of games this week, and we can make it up for the people, give them two nice winners this week.
Hey, well, I will say at least my Raheem Jarrett play came through. That game was straight to the point, and Jarrett easily covered the receiving yard. So I feel good about that. Thank you. All right. So, Stewart, let's dive into it. Let's get your first play for this weekend.
All right, I'll start out with a pretty well-known guy. We're going to go KJ Jefferson over 54.5 rushing yards in this matchup. Last week, I'm a big Cincy guy. Cincy's been a team that's helped me out a lot, and I did bet on them last week. We got the push at +7. This Arkansas team has a lot of hype, and a lot of it is coming from kind of NFL future quarterback hopeful, at least, KJ Jefferson, specifically his dual threat abilities, right? We know that he can push the ball down the field, but his legs are kind of what make this guy special. He's a big guy too, right? When we think of he's more in the Josh Allen kind of tier than like the Kyler Murray, where he'll run over you rather than run around you at times, which is kind of what I like to see. It gives me some hope. Another thing too, that Cincinnati defense is tough, and we got to remember with these college rushing yards for quarterbacks, they count sacks as negative yardage plays. So to go for 63 yards against that extremely good Cincinnati defense, I think isn't being talked about enough. I think a lot of people are focusing on the people that Cincinnati lost rather than the strong defensive unit that they brought back. So to see Jefferson successfully navigate that matchup, hit this number easily, I think he kind of eclipses this number. I think we see him in the 70s in this game. Another huge game for Jefferson. Arkansas will obviously want to start out 2-0 before that schedule gets even tougher with some of these teams later in the season like Alabama. This is a pretty big game for them. I think they want to get this start going, get that KJ Jefferson hype kind of building up for the NFL draft. I think his rushing yards is a great look right here at 54.5.
Yeah, I think this is one of the underrated games on the entire slate, man. I'm looking forward to seeing, because South Carolina is slowly rising here, right?
Yep.
And if they can beat Arkansas, I think that'll be an interesting kind of shockwave that'll go through the SEC, especially for Shane Beamer as he builds that program there. Spencer Rattler going out against KJ. I love KJ Jefferson. Last year, I remember that game against Texas A&M when him and Treylon Burks had a field day, and Jefferson is just so stout, man. He's so stacked. He's a thick dude, and I love his game. So I think that's a fine call, my friend. I'm going to go first off up to the Big Ten. That's right. And again, it looks like I'm taking a running back against what would be perceived as a cupcake. And maybe I got to learn my lesson from Devon Achane last week. But I feel like the weather kind of let me down there. Even though he had like at one point 8 carries for 8 yards. It was awful. It did not look good early, which kind of surprised me because Sam Houston State, who knows why that happened. But I really feel confident in Mohamed Ibrahim, okay? Running back, Minnesota Golden Gophers. This guy he's basically like a pro now. He's been around for a long time. He is their workhorse. He grinds out yards. They give him carries, and I know they're playing Western Illinois, so you say to yourself, well, they're going to sit him. I don't think they want to sit him. He wants to get the carries as part of his repertoire, okay? So I think over 114.5 rushing yards for Mohamed Ibrahim against Western Illinois. I think it's a pretty safe bet. Every year he's getting plenty of carries. He has a career 5.5 yards per carry, which in college is decent. It's solid. There's some guys that have bigger yards per carry than that in college, I understand. Pro and college, yards per carry, big, different separation between the two of them, So I like this one. I think this is the play. Mohamed Ibrahim was hurt last year, and he's hungry because he missed most of last season. He's ready to rock against Western Illinois. Over 114.5 rushing yards. I think this is a pretty easy call, but maybe, once again, I'm getting sucked into a lesser opponent, and he might not get as much run, but I just don't feel like that is how the game script goes for Minnesota. They like to give him carries, and he's going to maximize the carries he gets.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. He's a grinder, and this Minnesota team is coached by grinders, right? If we've learned, even kind of despite the system they've run over the last couple seasons, they enjoy to run the rock. And I know they are, like you said, going against a lesser opponent, but when people think about these blowouts, right, and resting the starters, you got to realize their path to getting to that blowout. And it's probably going to be running the ball very heavily in this one. So even if he does go into halftime with a big lead, it's likely he could be in that 80 to 90 yard range already, meaning you really only need a little bit of second half production right here. So I understand there are some concerns with these bigger numbers, but I do kind of regret kind of overestimating the blowout sometimes, because I think, like I said a second ago, if they get to the blowout, he's going to play a big part in that. So I see plenty of volume today. I definitely like this spot against a rough opponent.
Yeah, well, last week they played New Mexico State, and it really doesn't get much worse than that, frankly. Sorry, Aggies fans, but he had 132 yards and 21 carries, so I think he can equally match that against Western Illinois. All right, let's get to your second play here, Stewart.
Yep, I'm going with another running quarterback right here. I couldn't resist. I'm going with John Reese Plumlee, over 59.5 rushing yards. This is for tonight's game. We're going with UCF, and a pretty big matchup, right? We got a close spread. We've got a compelling game right here. And what really drew this to me is Plumlee, he's a runner, man. He is a complete runner, right? He does throw the football. He threw for 300 yards last week. A bit of a cupcake matchup like we kind of just talked about a second ago, but he's really the heart of this offense, and that kind of comes from his dual threat abilities. I like both kind of sides on this. I like a lot of the running game in this UCF matchup, right? When you look at what Bowser right there, I believe he's kind of struggled in yards per carry recently, right? We saw him run the ball 20 times, but he wasn't the leading rusher. Plumlee was last week. And I think we kind of see a similar scenario right here where Plumlee just gets an extremely large amount of volume. He ran the ball 16 times for 100 yards. This is one of those where I kind of wish college football would let us get these alt lines a little bit, right? Because we saw this Louisville rush defense was not good last week. They got absolutely pummeled kind of out of nowhere, right? I don't know about you. I was not expecting Syracuse to dominate that game, and it happened on the ground, right? Their quarterback ran for 90 yards. Their lead running back ran for over 100 yards. I think this game is kind of going to be dominated on the ground. I think that's where UCF takes advantage of it, and I'll take advantage of a highly kind of trained quarterback right here to just run all over the place. I think he goes over 100 yards again. I'm going to call my shot on that one right here.
Ooh, calling your shot. Stewart Durst speaks. We should listen, folks. I like it. I actually looked at it, and I know you like to get in a Friday play for the show if you can. You don't want to force it, and nobody's forcing it. I thought about it strongly, but I just was a little hesitant because I felt there were some easier matchups on Saturday. But I'm definitely down with it because Central Florida, they're humming along with Gus Malzahn, who's their coach, and now they're starting to get that program rolling in the way that Gus Malzahn likes to get it rolling. That's a high-octane offense. Ha, 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 ha. Quick. Speed. Go. So this is a great play. I don't care if he gets sacked a few times. I think the rushing yardage will overcome all of that, and I think it's a fine play. And my final choice here on the PrizePicks show, I'm going to pick Dorian Thompson-Robinson of the UCLA Bruins. Soon to be Big Ten members, UCLA Bruins, which makes no sense. Well, I didn't say that out loud, and I'm like, what am I saying? Is this real? This is not what I grew up with, but hey, you got to be ready for change, folks. And unfortunately, Alabama State is going to have to face this guy, DTR, who's one of the most electric players in all of college football. He's a serious badass. He really is. He can do it all. He can run. He can throw. Last week, had no problems whatsoever against Bowling Green. It was a free-for-all. He easily would have covered this number combined. Now remember, this is combined total. I'm doing passing and rushing yards for 303.5 over for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. This guy has both of those assets in droves. I mean, the guy is so fast, and he can throw it all over the field. So I don't see any reason why Alabama State's going to come into California here against the Bruins and limit DTR. In fact, if anything, this number seems like it's a little bit too low to me, so it makes me wonder, am I missing something? What is going on here? I looked into Alabama State a tad, and I didn't see a defense to fear that what I would be concerned about, that a lot of sack yardage would get rolled up and it would be negative on the rushing side. But even if the rushing doesn't quite come through for him, he can still throw it all over the place. And if the passing isn't going well, he can run all over the place. This is a guy who can run for 150 yards, no problem. He really can. So I think 303.5 over combined rushing and passing for Dorian Thompson-Robinson is a pretty safe play.
Yeah, you said with the division, the times are changing, but there's one thing that isn't changing, and that's DTR being a fantasy cheat code, right? Whether you're betting player props, have him on your fantasy team. Like you said, this guy can easily explode in both the passing metrics and both the rushing metrics. And when you combine him right here, it gives you a little bit of safety, because that honestly is my problem betting a guy like that. Is he going to throw for 300 yards or is he going to run for, 130 yards? It's kind of hard to nail down exactly how some of these guys explode. So when you kind of get it all in one in this play right here, I like taking advantage of that. Like you said, one of the most explosive players in college football. I love watching him play. I think this should be a good game. Even if they do kind of get up a little bit, this team will stay kind of committed to letting him take over. So I like the spot a lot. I like that you can get them both. You get the best of both worlds in this one.
You get the best of my love. All right. Yes, we've done it. Stewart Durst agrees, then I feel pretty good about my play. That makes me very, very happy because he is the man. I'm telling you what, I'm grateful to be doing the show with you, Stewart. This is the PrizePicks Prop Show. The FTN is the promo code. $100. Don't forget, $100 will be matched on PrizePicks if you use the code FTN. And just to review real quickly, our plays for today are, I went with Mohamed Ibrahim over 114.5 rushing yards, and I'm going over Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 303.5 total rushing and passing yards. And Stewart's going with KJ Jefferson over 54.5 rushing yards, and John Reese Plumlee over 59.5 rushing yards for Central Florida and the Golden Knights. That's going to do it for the show. I'm Michael Govier. He's Stewart Durst, and this has been the PrizePicks Prop Show. Have a good weekend, everybody.